As you know, SAQ, Swiss Association for Quality, and Xelyo Belgium represent 100 years of quality this year. And we are here to celebrate the 40 years of Xelyo Belgium and 60 years of SAQ Switzerland. I'm Anne Kind, I'm the director of Xelyo. We are a network organization of members across all sectors that share the ambition to become better tomorrow than today by sharing insights and good practices. Let me introduce you to my colleague and friend Priska.
So thank you, Anne. Thank you for the introduction. And welcome to everyone for the future-focused webinars. I'm Priska Zammaretti. I'm the director of the Swiss Association for Quality, and we are also a network organization, and it is the Switzerland's leading cross-industry hub for quality, innovation, and certified standard. Together with our Belgian partners, we celebrate our shared 100 years anniversary by exploring what's next rather than looking backwards. Today marks the third and final session of our Future Focus series, where we dive into the topic shaping tomorrow's quality landscape, like the agile supply chain. Experts from Switzerland and Belgium will each present a real-world business case to spark ideas and discussion on the topic. Stay tuned, and at the end there will be some questions, an option for question, and we are looking forward for them at the end of the speeches. Let me introduce our first speaker. So today our first speaker is Jean-Charles Gander. He is the head of QSC at Centravo Holding, and is the CEO of Gander Consulting and vice president of the SAQ board. With decades of hands-on experience in quality, safety, and environment leadership, he brings unique perspective on how agility is reshaping supply chain across industry. He'll set the stage for today's topic by shaping insights from his journey and highlights the challenges and opportunities ahead. Let's give him a warm welcome. Jean-Charles, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Priska, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So I really think this topic, supply chain, agility in the supply chain, risk management along the whole supply chain, is really a problem that we have to solve, or a situation that we have to observe quite exactly. For this introduction, I will only focus on some topics, and then I think my two colleagues, they will give you some more deep insight in the whole problem that we have. So as you can see, my short presentation is named Supplier Quality and Risk Assessment. And before I start with the other slide, I just want to ask you a question. If you don't want to answer, it's not a problem. But you know, in the whole food industry, if we have a problem with a product, we have to make a recall of the product. And for sure, you can read in the paper or on the TV, on the radio, a company had to make a recall. And for sure, it's not good for a company to make a recall. And perhaps you know how many recall we had in 2016. In the whole European Union. In the whole European Union in 2016, we had about 2,200 recalls. It's a lot. Can you imagine how many we had in 2023? I mean, 7 years later. We had more than 4,000 recalls. Next slide, please, Priska. Next slide, click. Yeah, it's that we are investing a lot of money to manage the food safety in the companies. You can imagine that we have even more requirements. And as I wrote here, the costs are skyrocketing. So I'm not chief on finance. But if you click one more time, Priska, as a chief of finance, I had to say the return of investment is catastrophic. I mean, we are investing a lot of money, a lot of resources for the food safety. And each year we have more recalls. So it means that we are doing something wrong. One can say, but you know, if the social media, it's easier to see if there was a recall or the information is better and so on and so on. But in the reality, we have more and more recalls. And if you think about this number, 4,500 recalls each year in the European Union, it means each day more than 10 products were on the market with the possibility to produce health issues. So it's not acceptable over and for the next period of time. So if you click one more time, Priska. And the question is, you can click. The question is, why do we have so many recall? The first answer is that there is still significant gaps in production between requirements and what is done in the production. And the other problem is that those issues are often detected only after products are already on the market. And it means we have problem with the production, we have problem with the entire supply chain, and we have problem with information. And we identified some causes causing that. The first thing is there is no process to share customer requirements across the supply chain. The result is silo thinking and no end-to-end vision. It means everyone is thinking about what can I do in my own company to enhance the food safety. But the idea to think about the whole supply chain, agile management of the supply chain. I have to know my supply chain. I have to manage my supply chain. That's one of the main problems that we have at this time. And the second thing is that many companies don't have a quality strategy. They say, I have something, yeah. I have a strategy, but they have no strategy. They have a politic or a policy. They have a quality policy. And it's something else. I can say in a policy, I want to be world champion. It's not a problem to say I want to be world champion. The question is, what should I do to be world champion? What is my strategy to be a world champion? And in many companies, there was no discussion about that. they have no quality strategy. So if you go a little bit further, Priska, the point, yeah, thank you. The point that I mentioned is something really important. And it's not only in food, but also in other products. Information concealment along the value chain. It leads that issues only detected by customer authorities and retailer self-check. I just take an example to explain you what is the problem with information concealment. If you imagine the problem that we had in Fukushima. In Fukushima, there was an explosion, but the Japanese people, they knew that there was a problem with Fukushima. They knew it before the drama that occurs in Fukushima. They knew how to solve the problem, but they didn't want to share those information with others. And at the end, we had this huge catastrophe with Fukushima. There is a lot of other examples showing that in most of the cases, when something happened, someone was informed about the problem, but didn't share the information with colleagues or with authorities, with customer, with clients, and so on. And we have to consider that really as one of the main problems concerning the management of the supply chain. If you go one further, Priska, it will be you can share the all, yeah. It is the last slide that I will share with you. It means that the supplier management is too often really reactive, relying on a retrospective review of available data. In practice, it means at the end of the year, each company is making an evaluation of the supplier. It's good, but it's not enough. Why is that not enough? Because it is reactive and not proactive. You are observing the data from the past. But, you know, in principle, if it is a good supplier or someone doing a good job or a company doing a good job, issue that already happened rarely repeat with the same suppliers. He will take some measures to make some correction or to fix the problem that he had. So if you focused on the problem from the past, you have no idea about the problem that can occur in the future. And I think I will stop here with this short presentation and this introduction. Just to explain you, we have to think out of the box. It's not possible to still have an reactive approach of the risk management. We really need to focus on proactive approach and have another type of management of the supply chain. So I think that's enough for this short introduction. If you have some question, you are welcome, but otherwise I think at the end of the meeting we will have some time for some question.
So thank you very much, Jean-Charles, for this insightful and forward-looking keynotes, looking at the overall chain and not only the supply chain. It's very important really to have this perspective also for today's discussion on the agility in supply chain. And now let's continue our journey into the future of the quality with our next speaker. And I will ask Thibaut Heck, which is a managing partner at Avance. So Thibaut will explore how emergent organizations go beyond resilience and building agility through culture, clarity, and smart system. His talk, More Than Resilient, promised to offer a fresh and strategic take on how organization can thrive in this complex world. So Thibaut, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So my first check is, so everybody can see now a slide called More Than Resilient?
Yes.
Okay, great. With a man jumping into a water. Okay. All right, so I go on. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. And thank you, SCQ and Xelyo, for the invitation and curation of the dialogue. And of course, happy birthday to these both wonderful organizations. Again, thanks for having me. And also thank you, everyone. I see plenty of people are coming in for joining us. And I'm delighted to share some thoughts about how we approach quality management or organizational management in today's world, and especially along the supply chains and with the usage of the all of, at the end, like the beast we call sometimes big data, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, totally new challenges we have there. But let me quickly go on something I'd like to really stress on. I think one of our main principles we should address is that resilience protects us and emergence takes us further. So resilience is the foundation of stability, and emergence will take us as organizations in the future. And I would like to appeal also to you during my little presentation, 4 keys that will always or guiding everyday work is heart, head, habit, and embracing high tech. So I'm going to share some topics. I'm going to explain a little bit what we understand from resilience to emergence. What is agility as a leadership outcome, smart systems, a little case study. Within 20 minutes, we can't go that much into detail. An example when tech underperforms, and culture is the real supply chain is one of my main points. So in order to give you a good picture of myself, so much into that topic is back in university in the United States and also Belgium, Germany, I studied much about organizational psychology, industrial psychology, and I was very much impressed by the work back then of Tom Peters, who did that research in search of excellence, or with Peter Senger's 5 disciplines, or Mintzberg. So this is really where I'm coming from, let's say a more study educational background, which I put in practice in many companies, as you can see. But first of all, what is resilience? Resilience is a phenomenal concept that we use. I always like to explain it very easy. It's like a wibble boy or a wibble girl that's hanging in front of the car and it's always coming back at the same position, whether you shake it or not. So it's more or less like this, if you like to see. You always get knocked, organization get knocked down on the floor, but you always stand up. And by this, you're like making the other very, very, very tired. And he's not back on, and he's just tired and you out tired him and you always bounce back to the same position. So resilience is what we call the capacity of a system to absorb shocks and to adapt to change. So I'm not going to do the scientific of it, but it's a little bit more than just getting through and enduring. It's also a little bit an active capability, the ability to adapt, to develop a little bit new solutions to remain successful in the long run. However, there's one thing I'd like to add with the problem of resilience, even though it's really good, many times people try to cope to new challenges with old habits because they helped them before. So why shouldn't they work this time? So I get back to that a little bit later. If you keep in mind, resilience is just that wibble figure or that bounce back girl or boy, then it's great. But for today, in today's world, is resilience alone enough? That's the key question. And we think that, as a matter of fact, it's not. So, because even though it's really a good mindset and not only a technology, and it's a necessary foundation, we think that emergence is the next step we need to embrace, and that this describes the moment when resilience turns really into something new and transform a company from the within and not only with high pressure from outside. So resilience helps us to withstand crisis. Emergence enables us to grow beyond mere survival or to actively create new possibility. So resilience, not enough today. And I hope that little film works so that I can really explain you why I love the concept of resilience. So this was an advertising done in Belgium by the line, but what is really important to know behind it is the concept that how can the ends like sometimes work, and scientifics explored this. And so when an ant finds another ant and the other ant is just busy with a certain task, they are copying it. So it's really simple mechanisms. Just keep it with that in mind. It's really simple mechanisms that the ants adapt so they can survive in new situation or when there is a danger. So there was still a commander in chief there, but I think it explained really good what is emergence about. It comes from the Latin word to surface or to arise, and it describes, keep in mind this, it describes the creation of new properties in a complex systems, and this by very simple mechanism. And this is what we should take with us for our, let's say, organizational structures. How do we organize processes? How do we put people in places? As simple as possible, with very simple and clean principles, and not, and maybe I hear a big hooray now, and not overcomplicating it with too many guidelines and detailed, narrow description of what a person should do, because that wouldn't work there. So resilience is there to strengthen us, to withstand challenges. Emergence is the new creative process, and where innovation also arises. And we know that we have, as organizations, any organization has to innovate as much as possible. So, and what I find particularly interesting is that when you can summarize it like this, and it's already a very old phrase, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, as we saw before. So resilience organizations bounce back, and just that you have a good picture in mind, emerging organization transforms like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And when the question is why this matters now, so right, because we always cope with challenges in the past, we cope with difficult situations in the past, but now the volatility is the operating system. We have a pandemic, and we have a war, multiple wars. We have inflation, we have a Green Deal Act, we have artificial intelligence. So the disruptions are constant. It's not like coming once in a while, they're constantly there. So the normal, let's say, the situation without the crisis is the exception, if we look back in the last years. So we're always in crisis mode, and that's why we cannot rely on old organizational thinking, let's say strict hierarchy and bottleneck decision flows. I'm getting into that a little bit. So that leads me already to my second point, why agility is a leadership outcome, and why it is so important to keep in mind that we have to be agile. So for me, agility is often discussed in process languages. We need agile processes, we need that and that. But the hard truth is supply chains rarely fail at physical layer, except when there is maybe a container ship blocked in the Suez Canal. But it's most of the time there is a fail at human layer. It's a decision not taking, or it's an information not getting down the road where it should be addressed. So we have seen production sites paralyzed, not because raw material wasn't there, because no one was empowered to accept the raw material coming into the factory, and they had to wait, let's say, for a supervisor or for the chief of quality flying in from somewhere else. So for us, agility, as you might understand, is not a tool, it's really a leadership outcome. And what enables agility is decision clarity on who decides what and where and when. And ideally, always the decisions are done at the point of execution. So that maybe some of you are familiar with the lean concept. That would be very much what we see. So cultural safety is really, really important and valuable information. So the best process map is useless if it floats on a culture of hesitation. That's my main point here. And in emergent system, we shift the focus from procedures to principles, from compliance to clarity, and from control to coherence. So if you adhere to something, you have much better. So just to give you a little example, maybe 30-second example, we had a huge plant in Belgium where we were busy, and there was always a conveyor belt stuck because the palletizer was not resetted in the right way, and there was a fence and it was blocked, and there was only the supervisor was allowed to reset the palletizer, and he needed to be called, and sometimes he was like 20-25 minutes on the other side somewhere on the side, and the people had to wait, and so everything was blocking, and it slowed down the production lines. And I find it always so interesting. If you see people are working on the computers in home, everybody is capable of switching on the smartphone and resetting it, and then they step into a production site, and then they're not allowed to think anymore, because it has to be the supervisor to push on the reset button for the palletizer. So that's and it happens 2-3 times per shift. That's cost a lot of money. So that is what struck me on a cultural side, that intelligent or smart people were not allowed to touch the reset button. They can drive with the car to the company, right? They can work, they check the bills, whatever. So this is really so. My main point: supply chains rarely break at the warehouses; they break at the decision points. Agility is not a tool, but a leadership outcome. And the true agility is not the technical thing about it, it's not the framework. True agility comes from empowerment at the point of execution, that you really put decisions at the lowest level, I could say, in the organization as possible, or if I would say the highest level if you turn around the pyramid. That leads me now to an interesting, I make a parcours tour a little bit. Smart systems, weak signal. We had an AI case. Dr. Gander was mentioning it before. Lately, we had a large product recall from a very known brand. It was in the 7 digits cost. So Jean-Charles gave us some figure earlier. So we have endless audits and inspection, and still, right? We have image damage. We had that raise in recalls. We have bad news. And if you see at some numbers from the Allianz insurance company, where they did a study, food and beverage, an average product recall cost a company 7.9 million. Okay. Maybe you don't pay it directly, but you pay it indirectly because your insurance costs are high. Automotive, industrial suppliers, in average, 12 million a year. So that's a huge amount of money, massive money. So, and this comes in, how do we improve the work of quality? That's the main question that we have. And so we can do a lot of studies, we can do a lot of strategic work, which we did. In this case, the question came directly from the leadership team, and just not as a checkpoint for compliance, but really a lever for excellence. And what you see now is also the result of a multi-year journey where we started with the strategy, depending on the strategy of the company. Dr. Ganda mentioned before, what is the strategy for quality management? Well, that was our question as well. And we said, okay, now we're going to develop a strategy for quality management. And what matters here is that we used artificial intelligence a couple of years ago to enable us to be better prepared and to block out, let's say, risks out of our supply chain. So I'm not going too much into the detail of the chart, but as you can understand, when you have a recall, that's a crisis. When it's the public really reacting, it's a big crisis. And before you have a trigger, which is maybe an incident, then you have potential risk and you have issues. So for us, issues are at the very beginning. And I found particularly interesting what Dr. Ganda said was the word information concealment. So somewhere around in our supply chains, the information is there. The question is only where and how can we find it, to what cost. And this is what we did here. So we developed an AI radar system that is screening the whole relevant areas of the supply chain, especially for food in that case. And so, but there is another question that you don't have an information overload, because then you have the risk of loss of relevance to your case. What we did here is an AI-based early warning system based on selection and prioritization. We identified the relevant risks. Then we had also the trained information management inside the company. And so just to give you one example is we had cases of salmonella occurring in some areas of Europe. And we were capable of keeping it out of the supply chain very, very early in the supply chain. We stopped it. And that's really important, because if you have to take it off the shelf, right, it was not arrived yet in Switzerland, let's put it that way. And by this monitoring, we could alert and make sensitive to the management that there might be a big risk coming up. Currently, it's still an issue. It's not inside the company. And we were capable of stopping it before others did something. So basically, smart system, human courage. It's an AI-based early warning system. We have a weekly signals dashboard. We train the leadership so that we have real impact, because AI only adds value if people are ready to act on it. I will come later on stuff like that. I still have some time, right? And this is important. This is another example we found when tech underperforms. This is why I'm so stressing on resilient and emergent state of organization. I call it always the 60% factory. So you see here as an image, we had a lot of red alerts, red notes, because a highly sophisticated manufacturing site, a factory with really robotics everywhere, dashboards lighting up, real-time data, predictive maintenance was running also in the background. And it was really like industrial 4.0 of state of the art. And so it looked perfect, but in reality, it was only running at 60% of its true potential. And not because of the technology was wrong. Many times, technology is not the problem. The machines that did exactly what they were supposed to do, and also the preventive maintenance, the AI model, was delivering quite accurate predictions. But the problem was the human system designed around it. The operator sitting and now you can say, well, it's obvious, but the operators, they hadn't been trained to interpret or trust the dashboard, so they depended still on management. So, and by this, middle management was constantly, let's say, in firefighting mode and drowning into reporting instead of decision making, because they received all the reports from the operators. So it's like a culture that discouraged people from acting on data, and it didn't challenge the old way, right? So you have a brilliant technology, but your it's paralyzed by weak human readiness, and well, you can spend millions on automation, robotics, AI, but if you don't help your people understand it, if you don't change the habits and the culture is not aligned, well, then I always like to call it the smartest system or the smartest factory is just a very expensive decoration and a stupid smart factory. So technology was ready, the human system was not. And maybe like an example is from sport, it's like a Formula One car, right? So you can if you go into the Formula One car, you have the fastest car probably or one of the fastest car on earth, but without the right mindset and the right skill set, you will never win a race. You wouldn't even survive the first round. So you need to train it, you need to enable the people, and again, to put the decision at the end of the at the point of execution. And that's why for me, I'm saying culture is the real supply chain. And in supply chain, silence is the most expensive risk. It's not and I really like the example of Fukushima, and it was also with Chernobyl, if you remember, in the 80s, the problem. So now I'm thinking, oh, I'm so old. In Chernobyl, it was the same problem. The information was there, it was not shared. Why was it not shared? That's the big question, right? Information concealment exists. Issues are mostly only detected by customers, final customers, when they take a product out of the fridge at home, or when they drive their cars and they see that something is not working, whatever you imagine of you have a household machine, or it's a dishwasher, whatever. So it's most of the times it's the customers, then the authorities, maybe sometimes the retailers do self-checks. And why is it like this? Why is it like this that we have that the human system or the culture, deeply spoken, is not ready? And the breakdowns, so my main message is the silence. That's the reason behind it. And why are they, why are they not, let's say, escalating an issue? Why are they not saying it? Why is everything always a surprise? Oh, we have this now, we have that. And why do we have so much mistrust and reaction? So Thomas is giving me a sign now. So in today's world, it's very expensive, and fear is the answer. Fear. The answer is fear. Fear kills agility. Fear kills trust. Fear kills everything. So what we need to do in order to have it and to break down that information concealment, we need to install trust in our systems. This is what we really need to do. Very easy, understandable principles, with most of trust and the most of openness possible, and that is culture. So we had a couple of examples. We can dig later into it. So, and also in today's world, why is culture the real supply chain? Processes are getting more complicated. They are more interconnected. It's not like fragmented. We used to have it back from the Taylorism, right? That only one operator is controlling a small part. Nowadays, operators controlling, let's say, brewery factories from one or two operators, which used to be like 20 years ago, it was like still 30, 40 people. So we need to have people that are like the Swiss Army knife, that are able to think, I'm gonna keep it, and I'm also destroying it. Right? This is called what we call polydextro, so ambidextry. So with the left hand, you're building something, and with the right hand, you're breaking it again to build something new. So it's not just robust, it's not just resilient, it's what we call polydextro. So, and that leads me to my other slide, or last, to my ending note. We have to be in many modes at once. We need to be human, but we need to be very digital AI. We need to be centralized at some points, but we need to distribute as much power as possible. We need to perform, but in the same time, we need to learn, and we need to explore the future while we are executing the present. And that was different, right? That was very much different. And it's not a theoretical idea. Most adaptive supply chains today, they work already like that. And I think so. Emergent organizations, they don't just bounce back, they transform, and they transform to what we think looks a little bit like this, where you have a lot of relationships built in the company, and it's not like the little blue waves with the silos that you have currently. Everybody's working in a nice wave smoothly next to each other without interfering too much. You need to open up a company and create let's put it that way, multiple ecosystems, and always keep in mind that with the heart building the right culture, with the head creating the right clarity of the direction and decision making, and knowing what matters, and the habit, the routines, and the ritual that create a certain stability, like daily stand-ups, risk reviews, open issue tables with your supplier, with your customers, escalation protocols. And then you start you with that small rhythm, you will turn chaos into a certain flow. And high tech, embrace technology, embrace smart systems, AI, early warning, predictive maintenance, dashboards, but integrated with the free age, like habit, heart, and habit and heart and head. So no single one is enough. And maybe if you allow, Thomas, I just say I have a little jokey slide at the end. You can think of, oh, he got the wrong football. And probably, yeah, that's one point to see it. Do we have the right tools? That's always a question I'm asking as well. But you might also maybe ask the question a little bit differently. Maybe sometimes the right question is as well, are we playing the right game? So this is, for me, very important. Are we playing the right game? Are we working slowly on efficiency, 1 point, 2 point incremental progress? Or are we really doing something really huge? And like Google is always saying factor 10, right? And this is about responsibility. One of my favorite slides. Yeah, on this trip, everybody is going to have a job. First, who cannot swim? Well, you're in charge of the lead. Put the responsibility where it belongs, where somebody has a really important thing in it. And I think I need to cut off, Thomas. Okay. Well, then just a little last one. If you change with lean, you change one letter, you have a lot of elan. It works very well in French and in Dutch. I think English, not that much. But at the end, let me finish with that one. Whether you believe you can do it or you believe you can't, you're always right in both cases. So thank you very much for your time and listening to me.
Thank you, Thibaut.
And your microphone.
And we will need you to turn on the mic.
Exactly. Okay. I was so concerned that there would be a sound. I'll rephrase and restart. I welcome Peter Soete, the Global Quality Director at Rousselot, and he drives a culture of excellence and continuous improvement. And this resulted in him winning the Xelyo Business Excellence Award in 2023. Since then, Peter continues to improve and build the quality mindset at Rousselot. Peter considers the agile supply chain as an essential in a world of shifting consumer trends, regulatory barriers, sustainability pressures, and geopolitical uncertainty. And to achieve this, he wants to focus on ensuring global consistency in quality while enabling local responsiveness. We're curious to hear your story, Peter. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anne. I think everybody sees already my presentation now. So I will start right away. So it will look like I already was informed on the presentations of Thibaut and Jean-Charles, because actually what you will see, what I hope to share with you, is some practical things, experiences I discovered or I encountered during my job I have now already for a couple of years in quality, and also to share with you how we act on that from a quality point of view, or where we can make the difference. But maybe first a short introduction on my company. So we are I'm from Rousselot, and we are part of Darling Ingredients. And Darling Ingredients' core business is in valorizing and transforming animal byproducts. So we only work with animal byproducts, and we transform that in something more valuable. So we worldwide, we're on the New York Stock Exchange, and we have 16,000 people in more than 260 facilities worldwide. If we go then to Rousselot, Rousselot is the global leader of collagen and gelatins, and actually we're active in 3 segments. The first one is our collagen business for health and nutrition. So you can find us in sport bars and all kind of health stuff and beauty things. The second part is the biomedical part. There we have some specific applications in. And the third one is our gelatin business, where gelatin acts as a functional ingredient. So there we deliver a lot of product to the food industries. You see the candies, famous candies. So we're a lot used in candies. And another very nice application is in the pharma world. For example, the hard capsules around the medicines you take, that's also made of gelatin. So these are 2 important markets for us as well for the gelatin. Where are we as Rousselot? Rousselot is a global company, and we are also globally present. So here you see we have 16 factories, production facilities throughout the world. You see a lot of black dots in South America. So we're highly present in South America because of the raw materials, because we need to be close to where the raw materials are. And as we work with animal byproducts, we need to be close where the most animal byproducts are. And the people who were already in Brazil, if you see the pampas, it's full of bovine and other animals. So there's a lot of raw materials available. And that's not a coincidence that we have 7 of those dots in South America. It's not like that all the factories only produce for their own region. We have a lot of specific things per plant. Some are more used to gelatin, some others are more dedicated to collagen. The raw materials can differ. So all the plants are very specific, and they are not all doing the same job. And this makes a very complex thing because nevertheless, we are truly global present. It's not like that we don't ship goods all over the world. If you would look at our Rousselot goods flow, all the green arrows, these are actual stuff that we ship from one area to another. So we actually ship really a lot. You cannot imagine how many products we ship. For example, South America, I said we have 7 plants. So we export a lot out of South America. North America on his side, we don't have enough capacity of gelatin and collagen in the States. So in general, the States will always import a lot of material. You also see 3 arrows towards Japan. We don't have a production in Japan, but it's a very important market for us. And we're the number 1, and they ask number 1 products, high in quality. They are very demanding on quality. So for us, it's a very important market to be there. So a lot of supply over there. So it looks very nice, all those green arrows, but that makes us very fragile and very sensitive, because a lot of things can happen. And Thibaut already mentioned a couple of them. We can have, for example, trade barriers. And then immediately we see that supply to North America is under pressure. We can have geopolitical changes that can impact one of these arrows or more of these arrows. We can have pandemics like COVID, but for us also animal diseases. And there I agree with you, Thibaut. AI platforms that can help us with the risks. They can help us with the risks, but nevertheless, it will have a huge impact for us. Maybe we will inform a little bit earlier, but here you see the arrow of the African swine fever of 2018 in China. That has a huge impact on our supply. First of all, there were no pigs anymore in China. So our raw materials fall away over there. And it was a second effect because China, they wanted pigs. So what they did in Europe, there was a huge export of a mass of pigs. They just cut it in 2 and they shipped everything to China. So on the other hand, we were also lack of raw materials in Europe. So that was a huge impact on these green arrows that you see over here. That was also already mentioned in the Evergreen. That was in the Suez Canal in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Also regulatory. We are with gelatin and an animal product, actually. So you can imagine that we also have a lot of regulations in the food and the pharma world. I just give the example of Brazil, because in Brazil, for example, not a lot is going on processing aids and additives. And they are discussing if we can still use it or not. But if they say you can no longer use it, that can have a huge impact for distribution to other regions, or we need to put it on a label, and that can cause inconveniences for some customers. So also their regulatory barriers can have a huge impact. Sustainability, we already talked about climate change and things like that. For us, like you saw South America, you cannot imagine how many questions we get on deforestation. And to protect our brand, that they say, are you sure that no one of your suppliers can be linked to deforestation, because otherwise our image will also be disrupted. So we do a lot of efforts, and not just trusting the supplier, but we do a lot of things just to be sure that we cannot be linked to any crisis or anything related to deforestation. But of course, if the questions come up, you should already work on that, because otherwise you're again too late. So we know all of this. Last thing is religion. We deliver a lot to halal. You cannot imagine how many halal certification bodies there are, and the requirements are changing every month. So every month, one of the green arrows can be under pressure, because halal has again a new detection method, for example, porcine and bovine. So for us, all these incidents are actually impacting one of the arrows. So can we predict all of them? Of course not. If we are in a reactive mode, like you said, Jean-Charles, then we will be lost. Even if we have the best AI platforms, we will be lost, because we will be too late. If we can only deliver from one specific plant and one of the green arrows will be affected, and it will be, we cannot control all these incidents. So one day or another, each of these arrows will be affected or impacted. So we need to do differently. We need to act differently within Rousselot to control that, and to be more proactive than just looking at when the incident happens, that we can react in a fast way. We need to do much more in a proactive way. And the good news is there is always a possibility if you align it with your strategy. And there, again, Jean-Charles, I will talk a lot about strategy, because that's super important. Just writing the policies will not solve this, but the strategy should be there. So if you see our complex supply chain and the vulnerability of the supply chain, it's very clear that in our strategy is that we also always need a plan B. It's not acceptable that only one plant can deliver one specific product or one specific customer. So we always need one, or even preferably more plants that can deliver the same product or the same customer from different areas. And there it fits with our quality strategy. And that helps also to defend my quality strategy. First of all, the quality bar. You cannot put the bar at different levels or at different heights in different plants. Otherwise, you will create a burden from changing from one plant to another. So it's our global strategy to raise the bar and to have the same bar for everybody. So everybody, like Duplantis, need to jump over that bar in quality. And therefore, we use a lot of things. We use the same quality standards. We have corporate guidelines, all kind of things. But everybody needs to go to the same quality bar, like hygienic practices, all the same. Metal detection and sterilization, which are crucial in our processes. We have the same minimum requirements in all our plants. A second thing is qualification. If you wait until it happens and then you need to start to qualify another plant, you will be too late. Qualification of a plant can take months, even in a crisis situation. Then it can go a little bit faster, but nevertheless, it's always a good idea to qualify already before the crisis happens, that we already are okay. If we need to switch, that qualification is not an issue. The third one I actually like. I did a lot of efforts on that to really convince the full organization on the benefit of harmonization. You cannot imagine, we have QC labs in all our plants, we have internal QC labs. You cannot imagine how difficult it is to measure something easy like a pH and to have a 5.2 in China. And if the same product is measured, if it's actually not 5.2 in Brazil. So we need to align on the QC methods, and we need to challenge ourselves. So we do ring test, we send out the same batch to all the plants, and then we compare all the results and we take action out of it, because you need to fine tune. It's not enough to just to share in the system, this is the harmonized method. No, you need to really challenge that and really do a good job. And that really helps, because now if we need to go from plant A to plant B, we're already sure if they were used to get a 5.5 pH, that also in China, it will actually be 5.5 and it will be the same product. And harmonization is also there on specifications. It looks evident to have harmonized specs all over the world, but if you look at the details, it was incredible how far we were from harmonization sometimes. And sometimes delivering, supplying to a great company, and then we saw that specification in North America was totally different than the specification we acted upon in Spain. So, and that's my job from a corporate perspective, to go in discussions with those companies and to really to get to one harmonized spec. Because on the moment that we need to, we are in a crisis and need to shift from A to B, we don't need to discuss anymore the specification. You can imagine if you need to start discussing specifications at that moment, that will again slow down your process and will again have a huge impact on your agility. And the last but not least is digitalization and using your systems. Thibaut, I think you also emphasized that. Embrace the technology, use your systems. I hate the second Excels. So you cannot imagine how many times that you discover that when I visit plants. I said, but everything is in the system. The system is designed for that. Yeah, but really we prefer that an additional Excel or no. I say trust the system, use the system, trust the process, because everything needs to be in the system, because that's the only way to exchange all the quality data in between the plants when it's needed. Also for quality, that really helps. We have LIMS systems. If the moment is there, then we can easily share the specification limits, all the data, etc. And then we don't need to start to dig in Excels and other languages, etc. We use the system and we have all the information. So that's the first thing that we really work on in quality. Is it easy to do like that? It looks easy, but it is not. I can say you that I'm often challenged that they say, are you not too stringent? Are you not putting the bar too high for that company? Because that bar should not be that high. They don't deliver those customers. I say, yeah, maybe now, not now, but in 2 months, the world can change. We all know that. And then it can be very important that that specific plant can deliver to that specific customer. A second thing, which is for me very important, and it's in all my presentations, is that we need to go beyond compliance. Do not wait for the regulations to start to act. And it's a little bit like your slide, Thibaut, with the crisis. A lot of signs are already there before. So if you start until the regulations are there, then you're too late. So two practical examples is the halal. Halal, they like bovine. They don't want any contamination with porcine. And I can tell you a lot is going on the analysis techniques for cross-contamination detection of species, for example. If we would only start now, we would have been too late, because a certification body comes to us, yeah, we want to test in that way, and if it's present, we don't want the product. But we are backed with science and a lot of knowledge, because we are working on those techniques already for years. We know what are the reliable methods. We know which methods do create false results. And we can also go in discussion, because we have the knowledge and we have the data. And that's really appreciated also by the halal certification bodies, if you can help them on that and if you can share that knowledge. And it really helps us to avoid mistakes or misunderstandings. And on the other hand, when we know there is a problem, it helps us if we have reliable methods to already act upfront and translate that quality strategy into a strategy of the plant. The second thing is the partnership. I fully agree with you, Jean-Charles. Again, I need to refer to one of your presentations. It's like you say, sometimes we don't know what happens in the supply chain. We're so focused on our day-to-day business and everything what's around us, and that's already a lot. But our customers, they also have a lot of things or a lot of inputs. And with crucial customers, we go for quality partnerships. Like a lot of pharma customers, we have those crucial partnerships where we share opportunities, risks, specific things, and that helps us to be very proactive. I must say, do not underestimate the effect, because that also creates expectations. If you're in that partnership, they also expect from you that you come with results and that you come with solutions. But for sure, on the short term, we invest in that, and we do efforts where it's not really needed from regulations or from hard requirements, but it prepares us for the future, and it helps us to see things that can come sometimes even in a few years. But it prepares us for the future, and when it's there, that we can be more agile and that we can act upon. A last thing is, do not be like an ostrich. Do not put your head in the sand. Be receptive for the risks. And like the global world, the world is changing. Water is very important for gelatin. We use a lot of water to produce our gelatin. And there it aligns with our sustainability efforts and strategy. We want, of course, to limit the water that we need in our productions. But we know that from time to time we will have longer times of dry or periods of too much water, and that affects the quality of the water that we use in our processes. So we need to be smart. And you will see if you have the opportunity to visit one of our plants, it would be very nice, because you will see there latest technologies also for recycling of water, not without any impact on our quality, because that's really part of our strategy to also work on that. Another thing is the vegan thing. So it's not that we all became vegetarians, but it's clear, especially here in Europe and our countries, that more and more meat is disappearing from the menu on certain evenings, on certain lunches. There's nothing wrong with that. Do not misunderstand me, but it has an impact. We see meat consumption is slowing down, is going down in Europe, and it has an impact on our raw materials. So it means that we cannot produce more and more and more in Europe. So we need to connect to other things. And if you remember the first slide I shared where our factories are present, it's not a coincidence that we are heavily present in South America. And that, for example, in 2023 acquired Gelnex, which already had 5 factories in South America. So that was really part of our strategy also to cope with the trend that we clearly see in Europe. That's already my last slide. So I promise to be on time to the people, because I very often go over the limits, but I timed it and it should be on time. So this is already my last slide, I promise. So I really convinced that quality is playing a crucial role in this process. Quality is in the middle of the network. They really get a lot of inputs from authorities, from doing audits, from customers. They're also in the partnerships that we have with the customers. And on the other hand, they really know the business strategy or the business plan or the targets we have as a business. So they are in the middle of everything, and they can help to prioritize and select the right projects, which really gives something that the customer will appreciate, that will make the difference, and that's the value of our customer. So on the short term, maybe we will do too much efforts and we will spend some money. Yes, I'm convinced about that by applying this strategy. But on the long term, I'm absolutely convinced with that quality philosophy and that quality strategy that there will be a good ROE. And then we come back to your presentation, the return on investment. I'm 100% sure it's there. And it's not only a financial thing, but it also helps us to create a competitive advantage. That was the last picture. By acting like that, sometimes we're much faster. We can act much faster than our competitors who are not doing all that efforts in a proactive way. So I'm really convinced that quality can make the difference, even in this complex things like supply chain. And if we do the good job and we apply the right strategy and we align with all the other strategies, that we're backed for the future, and that the future is bright for your company. Thanks.
Peter, while Annie's turning on the mic.
Yes. My apologies, but I was saying, of course, thank you, Peter, and congratulations for the time management. That was good. Now it's time for some discussion and interaction and to hear from the audience. But while the audience is warming up, we have a question for the speakers. In your view, and after everything that we have heard today, what's, according to you, the biggest mindset shift that organizations need to make it truly to make them embrace to make it possible to embrace agility in your supply chain? Do you have some reflection on that?
Yeah, sure. I think the most important thing for the people, for the Q people in the company, is to be business enabler in a company, and to say, okay, I have to ensure the quality. I'm responsible for that. I will help to ensure the quality, but I have to support the company making money and to be there in a couple of years. And that's a huge change of the mindset. And the other things is to think about the fact that the world is going faster and faster and faster. And just to say, at the end of the day, I will check my product, I will check my process, I will check something. It's not more the way that we have to follow. We have to anticipate, we have to be ready to make some risk analysis of the supply chain. We have to trust our partner along the supply chain. We have to find a way to observe the new risk or the new issue. So it is a complete new job for the Q people in the future. And I think the most relevant point is the numbers that I have shown you. We have a rising number of recalls in Europe, so it means we are doing wrong.
Thank you very much, Charles. Peter or Thibault, do you have anything to say on that? The audience?
I agree with that,
Okay.
but I also want to be very positive. There is always a possibility if you align with the strategy, your business strategy, like you say. Of course, there is an economic behind. If I now spend money, I need to defend that. I need to say there will be a return, and I need to be convinced about that. And also, my quality people need to be convinced about that. The moment they say we don't believe it, then the plant manager and all the managers will be affected. They will say, yeah, Peter, you can tell whatever you want. There is no need to jumping that quality bar. So I have a huge job in convincing all my quality people to speak the same language. And sometimes I want them to be better salespeople because they need to sell the quality. They need to sell it as an economic advantage. And if we do the right job and we align it with the strategy of the business, I'm sure it can only be a success, but they need to be convinced about that as well. And then they need to find solutions and opportunities in that.
Thank you very much. Thibault?
Yeah, I can only, let's say, support the messages of both. And for me, it's about the attitude. It's about going in with the right set in the heart, in the head, and the habits, and then also embracing the high tech, like they all were saying. And then I think we have the right solution to the right question, and that's what was Charles also pointing out, and I think Peter did it very well also, is the question: do you see yourself as, let's say, the police, or are you seeing yourself as the ones really taking a society or organization to a new level? I think we are capable. All of us humans are capable to ask those questions. And as I put it earlier, maybe we should reframe a little bit the questions and to ask, like, what if we would be the ones running the business? What do we need as quality then? And what can we, let's say, how can we add value to the whole organizations instead of, let's say, also maybe a little bit of image change? For me, it's the question: are we playing the right game? Are we playing on the right level? That's the question we need to ask to change the mindset.
Thank you very much. If I'm seeing correctly, and Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see any hands or questions from the audience.
Not yet, but they're invited to join in if they.
And dear
if they
audience,
like.
don't hesitate to put your camera on. That can also enhance the quality of our dialogue. There I see
There we
someone.
go.
Yeah,
Hi,
me
Bart.
again. Hi.
Hi.
When I see the discussion, I see three things. One thing is quality is not the owner of quality, they are facilitating quality in an organization. So that's a big shift that people in the organization must realize. Secondly, quality people are very good at what they do, very technical, but they are terrible in marketing and selling quality in an organization. Yeah, so that's something quality people have to learn as well. And the third thing they have to learn is actually that the main language in the company is money language. And a lot of quality people don't speak the language of money. And that's why actually they are not listened to. That's why they're not valued in the organization, because they don't speak that main language of the company, so they cannot reach the top of the organization to make their point, because all in the company most of the time is around money. And when you don't speak that money language, you will have a difficult time in an organization to get your message over to the board. That's my idea.
Mm.
And what I see with all the audits we do about 60 audits a year, and we bump all the time in these three things. So I think there's still a lot of work to do in the companies, also on smaller sites, to make sure that these three things are elevated to another level in the quality organizations and companies.
If I can add something to your comment, thank you very much, Bart, for your comment. I would like to add a fourth thing. It's the thing that normally the Q people, they are not thinking in a strategic way. They are thinking on operational. You mentioned that they are very good, technical, operational, they're very, very good. But Peter mentioned that also the link between the strategy of a company and the quality strategy of the company has to be done. Because I can just give you an example. If you say in your strategy, I accept one recall each year, it's not the same thing as to say, I don't want any recall in the future. It is a huge impact on your process. There is a huge impact on the sales people. There is a huge impact on the procurement, and so on and so on. So the company, they have to define what they want. And this strategy has to be validated from the top management of the company. It cannot be that the Q manager decide, okay, I don't want any recall because I think it's cool. I take this example. It's a little bit perhaps not really a good example, but to say, okay, I don't want any problem in my company. And when the top management say, okay, we have no money for that, we have other priorities, we are not really to invest, you have a gap between your quality strategy and company strategy, and it will fail.
Yeah.
Bart, is that the second hand that you raised, or is that the same hand from earlier?
I didn't
Okay.
raise your hand anymore, so it's not.
Okay.
Maybe I can.
Yeah, Thibault?
I would like to add on what Bart and Jean-Charles said. So the question is that if to translate it into the board language, Bart, could be, so what are the costs of non-quality?
Yeah.
So I know it's very difficult to measure for many people, but this is, I'd like to install the question.
What's even more difficult, Thibault, is a company has to make profits. And how can you, as a quality department, how can you add financial value to the business?
Yeah.
Not only preventing costs, how can you add financial value to the business? That's something totally different and much more difficult.
Yeah.
And once you can prove that you really add financial value to the business, then you really be heard in the organization, not like, well, we prevent this cost from happening. It's still a cost. What do you add financially to the business? And then you will be listened to, and then you will be heard.
Yes, but Jean-Charles showed some statistics before, and I as well. So if we can reduce, let's say, the average recall of a retailer company, let's put it maybe from 7, 8 to 4 or 5, and we know that one recall in average costs a retailer like 5 or 6, 7 million. That's profit to the company, right?
Yeah.
While reducing cost, you can also, let's say, leverage on it and put the EBIT and increase the EBIT. So, but there's another dimension, I think, to it is like. Many people don't ask the question, what can I really deliver as value to the company? But and that's what I was explaining before, and Jean-Charles mentioned it, Peter, you mentioned, you now. It's like, really, is my company really aligned? Is the organization really aligned to a couple of core principles, a couple of core objectives, be it by the means of a balanced scorecard, an OKR, or whatever tool it is? Is it really in the heart of everyone? Is it in the mind of everyone? Do we have the right habits? Those are normally we work with target operating models with 5 easy questions like what's our strategy, and then how do we have to organize our processes? And the rest follows. Do we have the right mindset? Do we have the right structure? Is always the latest we talk about. But so about delivering value, it's really, really, really important that we all, and by the way, Bart, it's not only quality, right? So
No.
I met many engineering people and maintenance people that say, well, how can I talk to the board? How can we translate our problems into problems that the board is understanding?
Yeah, like I said, the main language in a company is a money language. So you have to translate the things you do in what's the financial.
Totally agree on that one. Totally agree.
I see there's a question from Ursula Grundner. Ursula, can you put on your camera?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
You have a question.
Yeah. Thank you first of all for this interesting views you show. Well, I just want to say to Bart, I was in this situation for the last 10 years, and I was not talking about costs. I was more talking to how can we increase business if we have the right quality? How can we make money? And this is something I think quality managers should learn, showing the good points and not speak about costs. I think this turn we need to make sure that this is understood, because not delivering quality costs much more than investing something. And I think this is the point we need to make sure that the management understands.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make my budget presentation to the top of the company, to the CEO, CFO, and name them. And they said, but and they stopped me halfway in my presentation. Said, but how many people work in quality? So I gave the number that said, okay, that's how many people work in quality. And the CEO said, that's as many people as work in marketing. And it didn't say it, but I heard him think, well, these marketing people bring us new leads and new clients. What do you do with the same amount of people to add value to the business?
Yeah. So I wouldn't go into this discussion, because the European Green Deal showed us that we have to implement so many new regulatory requirements, and this is also something which needs to be understood. And my boss always said, "Oh no, not another regulation, and it costs us so and so much money." Then that's what I said. You have to learn to say, yeah, but it's not the investment we do. We make so much more business if we do it. And how much business we wouldn't do if we just leave it like it is. I think this really needs also some trainings to the management so that they understand.
We are really into the discussion, but I absolutely agree on that one, because but with maintenance, it was the same. So, and engineers, because there's always like the discussion with the board. Oh, do we need to replace the machine? Oh, do we need to accept that new regulation? And so, and I like to put it always very simple down to, let's say, two poles. The one is, what do we need to do to keep the business doing, right? And the other question is, what do we need to do to stay in business?
Yeah.
So, and then we are immediately, and what you are saying, Bart and Ursula, what do we need to do to stay in business?
Yeah.
But that's another question. That's another playing field. That's not reduce the cost of non-quality can be, and risk-oriented quality management. We can make thousands of audits, but we need to really change our perspective as, hey, this is a serious business we are running as quality management, and what do we need to do to stay in business?
Yeah.
And then we immediately, it's very easy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We will move on to the next question. How should organizations structure themselves internally to support agile supply chains, especially when dealing with legacy systems or siloed departments? And we want to raise a dialogue about cross-functional collaboration, decentralization, and how you can adapt structures according to the needs. The speakers or the audience, do you have any thoughts on that?
Thibaut, you should start because
Yeah,
I know you're the specialist in,
Yeah, no,
in this topic, and perhaps Pete.
No, of course. It's always how do we start when you have legacy systems, legacy organization? The first thing is already the question is the start, right? So this is already good if we start asking those questions. The other thing is like, who is asking a question? Is it somebody, let's say, is it somebody isolated in one department, or is it already the board or the let's say management asking that question? So when it would be only me, let's say lonely in a corner in a silo, hidden somewhere, I would start with being really, let's say, firm in the concept and looking for allies before making it big out of that deer. Yeah. So start small in your area, making a bit of an idea, and let the successes speak for themselves. And if it's the board and they want to have it really on a large level, well, I would say train the people as much as possible and give them as much as possible positive experience about what they are facing with it. And I don't like the term failure culture, because I don't think we should have a failure culture, but I think we should have a learning culture. So to give the possibility of people to take a decision and to learn from that decision and to move on to the next decision. And that's so start by creating an environment that is not really dominated by fear, by openness and transparency. And it can start very small, or it can start at the top level. And top level could start with what you mentioned, Peter, with the hey, let's hear what the customers are telling us, and let's say how you say that there's always on eye to eye level, right? Open talk about, hey, dear customer, we would like to see how you perceive us, and we would like to collaborate with you on these and these points to improve all along our services and both our EBIT, to put it that way. So it really depends on the size of the organization. Are you multinational? And it depends also how many allies do you already have, I would say. But it's always good to look for help externally, right? So you have like working out loud initiatives. I don't know if it's famous, so that you start speaking about it, and then you will see. I'm a strong believer of serendipity.
Anybody else who wants to add to this?
Yeah, just perhaps to add something. Thibaut speak about failure culture, responsibility, and so on. And for me, something very important is empowerment from people. Let them decide. Don't be the one who want to control everything, to know everything as a manager. I was in a really big company. I had 300 people working for me, and it was not possible for me to know everything. And I didn't want to know everything. I didn't need all the data or information. I only need the information that were important for me to manage the team. The other things, the people, they are able to decide by themselves what is good for the company, what is not good for the company. And just to say, we have some people that have really better knowledge as myself in some topics in quality. We have specialists, they know exactly what they have to do. But I think Thibaut mentioned that they have to know the rules of the game. Once they know the rules of the game, they can decide what is good and what is not good. And they cannot do something which is really bad for the company. And at the end, the success is the success of the people. The failure is the failure of the top management. And if you have that in mind, your people will be happy to work because they know that they have some play field, they can decide, they have some responsibility, and they know that if something happens, they will be supported by the management.
And here it's super important that you don't only say it, but that you act upon it. When there is a real crisis, that you come in between and that you really defend the quality person and that you really help them out and you support them. Because you can tell everything what you want, and then we come back to the policy and the actual things and the strategy. Here they know it very fast. If you really act like that, if you really back them up, then I see that this is going around, and then they say, yeah, we can trust him, and they actually, they're not only saying it, there was no fear in the company, but also when it happens, it's also we don't perceive it like that.
Thank you very much, Peter. Normally, when I think it's the same in Switzerland as in Belgium, but we like among people active in quality, we like to talk a lot about technology, and then we have to emphasize that culture and people are more important, or at least as important. Today, I would like to turn it around. We have already talked a lot about culture and people, but still, we wonder what technologies or digital tools are proving most effective in enabling real-time decision-making and responsiveness in an agile supply chain. So do you see the role for AI in this discussion, digital twins, data analytics? Can you reflect on that? And that will be the last question. If we don't want to go over time, we have to take care of our own time management, of course.
Yeah, I just give you an example where I think that AI or technology is really important. As I try to explain you, one of the main problems is information concealment. And the question is, why do people conceal some information? Because normally you can say, okay, you are in a company, you want to ensure that you have no food safety issue and so on. But in some cases, you don't transfer the information. And for that, you have to use some other criteria to analyze this. For example, what happened in a country where the product are produced? What is the culture there? What is the relationship between the company and the customer? And some other really important question. And for that, you need new tools. And you need some new technology. Because just to give you a last word on that, when I was in the Migros group, we had 15,000 suppliers. And there is some people saying, okay, we can check every supplier. We will make audit. We will make inspection. We will we will control the documents. It is a lie. You don't have the resources for that. You don't have the time for that. And you have to focus on the supplier who are at risk. And for that, you need some new tools to really define what are the suppliers at risk and what should be do with those suppliers. It's the same thing concerning the transparency of the supply chain. It will never be possible for a retailer or a big company to have the total transparency of the whole supply chain. And if you have that, what are you doing with this information? If you have a problem with a producer of cacao in Côte d'Ivoire, you can try to call him and say, I'm the quality manager of Rousselot. Supplier Rousselot is not producing chocolate, but it's not the problem. You are in Europe, you are calling someone in Côte d'Ivoire or South Africa. The first answer will be, I don't know you, my friend. Where are you? I have no relationship with you. I don't want to speak with you. So what is the need? And what is the more value to have a full transparency of the supply chain?
Thank you very much. And we have come to the end, Priska.
Yeah, thank you so much. I like the conclusion. I mean, I want to put a point. You are called normally quality manager, so be a manager, I would say. And shape the culture through that.
Nice.
No, I like to play with the words, so it's an interesting point because you are called quality manager, but you are not an administrator. You are a manager. So take the responsibility, put your hat as a manager, and as a manager, talk about the money, talk about what is interesting also for the others within the company, and talk inside technically on what it is actually the technicalities that need to be discussed within the team, and be there when you need to be a manager to support also your team. And I took for once the hat, my previous hat as a quality manager. Some of you knows it. It was my past until 4 years ago as the Chief Quality and Regulatory Officer. So it's, I think it's a very important message. And I hope really from the deep of my heart that the quality people are becoming more quality managers and not just quality technicians, to make it very clear. And as we conclude this final session of the Future Focus webinar series, we want to extend our heartfelt thank you to all the speakers for Jean-Charles, Thibaut, Peter, but also the one that intervened in the previous sessions. And our partner and participant from Switzerland as well as from Belgium. And we want to also, your engagement and insight have made this journey from the AI till the Green Deal until now the supply chain a truly meaningful journey. So thank you for all that. And now I hand over to Anne.
Yes, thank you, Priska. And although this is the end of the series, just the beginning of deeper collaboration for both of our networks. So for sure, you will hear more of us later in the coming years. If you have any more questions or you want to stay in touch, we'd love to hear from you. You can always reach out through mail or you can come to our websites through the links in the chat. Thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.